All right, I don't know exactly where to start with this, so we're just gonna kind of go for it. So I was pickpocketed right here in Japan, and this is that story. I want this to be balanced, so I'll start by saying that I've definitely been helped in Japan by more people than I've been hurt by, and pretty much everybody I know who's been to Japan has at least one story of someone who has gone above and beyond to help them. But that doesn't mean that bad stuff doesn't happen. Bad stuff happens every day. I say it all the time, but in the end, Japan is a country with humans just like any other country. The ironic part of me saying all that is I cut out this scene from my last video. Still, by far, one of my favorite things about Japan is this. I can just leave all of my stuff there while I do a bit of a seat change on this machine. I cut it out because of how naive and stupid I felt about having that scene in there when my wallet had been stolen just like an hour before that. So the story is, I had just come back from Italy, and I typically don't like to carry more than $100 on me, but one of the companies that I was working with was a very cash and receipt style company, and so I had the entire payment right there in the wallet. It was one of those wallets that you keep around your neck so it's on your person at all times. So what happened was basically a false sense of security. When I arrived in Japan, I was super tired. I had been traveling something like 20 plus straight hours, and I was heading directly to my next job. I was tired, but being in Japan, I felt safe. So keeping my passport and ID on my person, I felt okay enough to safely tuck the wallet filled with cash into my backpack. That was my first mistake. I boarded a bus from Narita Airport to Haneda Airport, and I sat right in the front so I could hopefully get some of those driving shots. So I got to the airport, I checked in for my flight, shot that humiliatingly naive scene, boarded the plane, and it was somewhere mid-flight when I was putting something into my backpack that I realized the wallet was missing. Now this point has been somewhere near 24 hours of straight travel. I was absolutely exhausted and made the honest assumption that I'd probably just dropped it somewhere along the way. So I called everywhere. I called the bus company, the airport, the airlines. I even filed reports with a couple different police stations. You see, Japan has this lost and found style system that's basically run through the police. It kind of works sometimes. But to be honest, considering how much money was in the wallet, I wasn't ever expecting to see it again, even if I had dropped it. But the more time that passed, the more clarity I started to feel in my mind, and the more I started to think that there was absolutely no way I could have dropped it, considering how deeply I had tucked it into the bag. It didn't feel like. The only moments where I could think that anybody else would have had any access to that bag at all would have been that scene where I just left it there like a genius, or on the bus. So I called the airport and the bus company. The airport was surprisingly helpful right from the beginning. The bus company took a little more work, but eventually checked the tapes, and that's where we found it. Now you've probably guessed it already, but it was this guy right here. You see, there was a second fairly large mistake that I made that I've left out of the story so far, and that is I fell asleep on the bus. I have fairly strict personal rules about sleeping on public transportation, but I knew as soon as I arrived at my final airport, I would need to get to work right away, so I kind of broke my rules and I grabbed some shut-eye. You remember how I was sitting right at the front of the bus? Well, the bus had a camera right here. After a couple days, the bus company confirmed that they had footage of the gentleman sitting behind me, reaching through while I was sleeping, undoing my bag, and pulling out the wallet. What a lovely guy. And while they weren't willing or able to share that footage with me, they did send it to the police. I wonder what his reaction was when he opened it up. Was he like, yes, look at all the money I got? Or was he like, oh, this... Despite him and I being the only people on the bus, the police weren't really able to do anything with the footage. And no, I don't know what country he was from. But again, regardless of nationality, people are people everywhere. For the record, I am well aware of the mistakes that I made. I've had well over a year to play them in my head again and again. And I am comfortable in saying Japan is still quite safe in comparison to many of the places in our world. But it doesn't mean that terrible things don't happen. I'm starting to feel another video coming on. But I do want to end this on a positive note, so I will say that far more good things came out of that trip than bad things. In fact, it was on that trip that I was introduced to the company that made that beautiful custom desk for me, and having the opportunity to document that level of craftsmanship was one of the best experiences I've had in my life, let alone my time here in Japan. You lose some, you win some, I don't know. I guess it all kind of balances out. Anyway, hope your day is beautiful.